Welcome to another episode of Campervan Cooking. Our two dogs, Quince and Gypsy, bull mastiffs, are in the kitchen when I cook. So they're busy watching me at the moment, thinking that they might just get a scrap or two from the table. Today we're going to be doing a beef dish called Eclectic beef. The reason I've chosen a beef dish is that we are in the beautiful place called Sinsa West, which is on the wild coast of South Africa, about 35 kilometers from East London. And the Eastern Cape is the beef capital of South Africa. So let's take a closer look at the ingredients that we'll be using today. My first ingredient, the main ingredient, is beef, 900 grams. I've used sirloin here because it's a nice tender beef. To that I'm going to add some onions, 2 chopped onions, about a cup and a half of brown lentils. They don't need to be soaked. 1 tin of chopped tomatoes and juice. In this jug I have a rich hearty beef soup, which I have put in here with 800 mils of hot water, which I'll be adding to the stew to thicken it. About a cup and a little bit of red wine. You can use any red wine because it's really to make the meat tender and to give it a bit of flavor. Extra virgin olive oil and some butter to start. And then some tomato paste to add if you want to thicken it. I think one needs to just taste the dish first before you add it. And then our 2 favorite, salt and pepper. You probably might wanting to know what the carrots are for. I will show you at the end of the program. Served with the dish, instead of using rice or potato or pasta, I went into the local supermarket here in Sinsa and found these very nice pita breads. I don't have an oven in the camper van, but we do have a microwave, so we can just merely heat them up. Another option, obviously, you can also just warm them in your pan or on a fire if you're having a little fire on the side. So these are quite nice for dunking afterwards as well. Let's get started. I have my favorite here, which is my electric frying pan. I don't get anywhere without it. Not having an oven in there, a lot of our food is cooked in an electric frying pan. Okay, to start, we're going to put a blob of butter, probably about a tablespoon, and just melt that down. Even though we're using a pan that is non-stick, I still prefer to add a little bit of butter. And then a little bit of olive oil to give it some flavor. And then while this is simmering away, we're going to add our onions. We don't want them to get too brown because they're going to be cooking in with the juice of the meat. Just going to pop the lid on so that we can keep the heat in. So, campervan cooking. Why are we doing campervan cooking? Well, we undertook a journey that we started a couple of months ago from Cape Town, and for me it was important that we have some really good tasty food en route. So that is what started our campervan cooking, and all the ingredients that you see me using here are sourced locally, and also what we have in the cupboards in the campervan, bearing in mind we can only keep a limited supply. So let's see how the onions are doing. Right, they are browning nicely, and we're going to start adding our beef to the electric frying pan now. And then I'm going to add the red wine on top so that it sort of coats the meat and makes it nice and tender. You don't have to use sirloin. If you prefer something like topside or H-bone or even fillet, that can also be used in this dish. Going to now add the beef. I'm not using any flour or anything. I don't like flour mixed in with my meat. It actually browns very nicely, and I'd rather thicken it with some hearty beef soup, and obviously the lentils are going to make it thick as well. We're going to just brown that slightly. Where we're staying in Sinsa West, we are staying in a very nice camping site, and it's just across the way from us a sand dune, and on the other side of the sand dune is the beach. Probably the most pristine beaches I've ever seen in South Africa. Back to our beef. Okay, I'm going to add the red wine. I've said 1.5 cups, but you can decide if you want to put more in, because it eventually will just, it'll boil away. I'm adding 1.5 cups because it is rather a large frying pan. Just sort of gives it a really nice sort of like winey flavor. I think beef and wine go very nicely together. Okay, our beef dish is looking really nice. It's taking on a nice color. The red wine is beginning to soak in. I'm going to add the tin tomatoes now, and then I'm going to let that cook for a while. You don't need more than 1 tin. You've got plenty of other ingredients that are going in, plus the tomato paste, otherwise it's going to become too tomatoey. The lentils that I'm adding later on, beef and lentils for me always go well together. It also gives a natural thickness to the dish, and just a lovely flavor. For me, lentils are, it's like replacing a starch really. You don't have to use potatoes in here, rather use the lentils, and they're probably healthier for you as well. Low GI. Okay, I'm going to let that cook for a little while, and we'll be back shortly. The beef has been boiling for a little while. We've added our red wine, remember. We were hoping that it was going to reduce. It hasn't reduced that much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the lentils and the tomato paste, and then I'm going to leave it and let it cook for a while before I add the hearty beef soup, hoping that the lentils will have thickened it enough that I can add just a little bit of that. So in go the lentils. Lentils will take a while to cook, so I'm putting them in now because the beef has had a chance to cook through, and we're now wanting the beef to soften and become nice and tender. Okay, and then I'm going to add the tomato paste because we only added 1 tin of tomatoes. I quite like my beef tomatoey. Okay, so that's already thickening with the lentils in, and with your tomato paste. So we're going to leave that now to cook for a while before we add the rich hearty beef, and that looks really, really yummy. Delicious. Now the reason for me adding some of the rich broth at the end is that it does take a while for the lentils to soften, and as you can see, it's already starting to get thick. We don't want it too thick, otherwise it's going to burn the bottom of the pan. So it's going to be at least sort of half an hour or so before the lentils are cooked through. By that time it'll be ready to add a little bit of the rich beef stock, either all of it or some of it. That depends on you, how runny you like it or how thick you like it. So I'm going to close it up now, and we're going to leave it for a while to simmer. Okay, we've left the beef now to cook in its juices, along with the lentils, the onions, the red wine, the tomatoes and the tomato puree. You can see it's taken on a really, really nice thick consistency, which is what I wanted it to do. I'm going to add some salt and pepper, just a little bit. And our pepper. And then lastly, because it's reduced in its juices quite substantially and I don't want it to burn, I'm going to add some of the beef soup that I prepared beforehand. I'm not going to add all of it. I'm going to first see what sort of a consistency the dish takes on and how it tastes. Okay, I think I'm going to leave just a little bit. We can always add that at the end to simmer and reduce slightly, and just let the juices from the meat and the rich hearty beef soup and all of the other ingredients mingle in. And we'll be back a little bit later to have a look and see how this is doing. But for now, I'm going to tell you why I put the carrots out. In the field next to us here, we've got 2 horses that belong to the New Hampshire Equine Rehabilitation Center. The horses that they have are all used and abused horses that come from abused backgrounds. And it's a family here in Cinta West that have adopted them and look after them. And the 2 next door are Fudge and Dash. And the carrots are for them. We go up most mornings to go and feed them. So while my stew's stewing away here, let's take a walk up to see Dash and Fudge and feed them some carrots. So we've just got back from feeding Fudge and Dash, and while we've been away, we've left the stew gently bubbling. I'm going to open it now just to check the consistency, whether I need to add a bit more water. It looks absolutely delicious. I like a thick stew, and we're going to be serving it with a pita that you can see on the table. What I've chosen to do with this is I've taken the pita bread, as you can see, and I've gently fried it in a little bit of olive oil just to give it to a sort of like a nice brown color. And what we're going to be using this for our meal would be in place of a naan bread. But if you want to, you don't have to do that. You can just slice off the top of the pita and put the stew inside. And this recipe can be found on our website, saroadtrip.com. For further details, please visit our website and try our delicious eclectic beef. Bye for now.